Hi everybody, welcome to the Watermark Student Learning and Licensure webinar. The webinar here is to provide a basic introduction to using Watermark Student Learning and Licensure for SLOAs and program assessments. Just some housekeeping notes for today. You can use the chat box and a moderator can answer your questions. There will be discussion at the end if time. If we don't get to the discussion, please email onlinelearning@STROS with your questions. And all of our webinars and training sessions will be recorded and posted, and you can find them on our YouTube channel, but you can also find them on our MediaSpace channel, which I can share with you at the end of the session. So a couple more things to note. This webinar is to serve two different populations. We are providing information to both St. Rose professors at St. Rose proper in Albany, as well as to the site instructors who are in the satellite program in New York City. So please pay close attention to the information as it pertains to your role and where you work. So let's get started. What is Watermark Student Learning and Licensure for? So we're going to be using this platform to collect program assessment data. If you used Chalk and Wire in the course before, it should now be set up with Watermark Student Learning and Licensure. Yes, this is basically, it's a platform to collect and analyze data. One of the great things that we found when we researched this tool was that there was capability to drill down and get insights as far as what the data show. Additionally, we will be adopting a new platform for planning and self-study, which will allow all of our data and our course evaluation data to seamlessly flow into that solution. So we are really excited to offer the opportunity for faculty to use this tool. So when will we start? So all of our summer 23 courses are currently using Watermark, and they should not be using Chalk and Wire. If you know of somebody who is trying to use Chalk and Wire in their course, my hope is that Chalk and Wire has actually disabled the site, but if not, please let them know that they should not be using that platform. The full campus rollout will be in the fall of 23. We are currently in the midst of setting everything up for that final rollout. So just a little bit of information about how information gets into Watermark so that you can utilize it for your assessments. This process shows how we in OLS add the assessments to Watermark and then make them available to you, the faculty. So we had asked many times, must have been back in January now, for programs and departments to send us any standards, rubrics, or assessments that they have. The faculty identified those and program assessments, and that information was set to OLS. From there, we created templates, and those templates are master program assessments for SLOAs and for accreditation purposes. And that information that came from faculty allowed us to create a template, which is basically, what template is, but it's a container that sets up how students can interact or submit to the platform. So from there, we then create activities, which is basically copying the template down into an activity. And what we do here in OLS is we have to deploy that activity to each of the sections of all the courses. So when you are teaching a specific section, what we do is we send those down to those sections. So as you see in the graphic here, we create the activity and we deployed it to all three of these MBA courses. The role of the instructor at this point is to then link that, very similarly to how you did with Chalk and Wire, to link that within Canvas itself. So here's where we are going to have different information. So how do you access Watermark Student Learning and Licensure? You're actually going to hear us call it SLNL quite a lot, and I'm not quite sure if it's just because it's easier, but I do have a lisp, and it's a lot easier for me to say SLNL than the whole thing. So for St. Rose proper professors and students, you're going to have the same login information. You're going to enter either through an assignment in Canvas, or you can go to watermark.stros.edu and log in using single sign-on. For site users, the mentors, instructors are going to have a different place to go in order to log in. Students will have their own link, and the site instructors will have their own link. So it's going to be a little bit different. So you would log in using so the mentors, instructors, you're going to log in using the single sign-on by going to watermark.strohs.edu. The information to log in is your St. Rose username and your password, same as your St. Rose email credentials. If you need to learn more about your St. Rose email credentials, you can email ITS at helpdesk@strohs.edu, and they can help you figure out what those credentials are. So when you use single sign-on, you should land on a page that looks very similar to this. If you see it, you are in the right place. So now let's get started and dig into the actual platform itself. First, I'll walk you through how to set up a watermark assignment in Canvas if you are in Albany. And this demo then we will move into, I will show you how to set up an assignment in Watermark. So let's keep going. So St. Rose proper in Albany, setting up assignments in Canvas. So we're going to create linkages, and then we are going to assign the activity. All right, so to create the linkage, it's very similar. It's almost the exact same process as it was to do your chalk and wire assignment. So you would go into your Canvas course, you would add an assignment, and then you'll use the external tool option in the drop-down and choose Watermark SL&L from the external tool menu. You'll have to scroll down quite a bit to get to the bottom because it's in alphabetical order. And then you'll click Save. Once you've done that, you're going to then launch that assignment so that Watermark opens, and then you are going to choose a specific activity in the Watermark screen. The home screen is going to take them to somewhere completely different, but in order to assign an activity for assessment, you're going to go to the specific activity. Then you're going to select the course section you would like to assign it to, and then select the activity to assign and click Save. So I'm going to show you a little bit about how that goes. And again, this is only for our instructors who are in the Albany area. So I'm going to go to Assignments, and then we're going to create an assignment here. We will call this one Watermark Test Assignment. And this is where you would put the very detailed information about what students will need to do for this submission. Scroll down to Submission Type, External Tool, and then you're going to find that in our External Tool menu. Select, and then Select. You do want to make sure that you have loading this in a new tool, in a new tab, highlighted, and then click Save and Publish. That makes it available to students. So once you've saved it, you can now launch that activity, launch that assignment. And here's where you're going to set it up within Watermark itself. So you're going to click Specific Activity. You're going to choose your course section, and then you are going to choose which activity it is that you would like to assign. So I'm going to go with Activity 1. And then go up to the right-hand side and click Select and Save. So now I've set that linkage up. So if I return to the LMS and I go to Watermark Test Assignment, I open it, it's going to bring you to your In Progress tab and the activity. So we'll go over that a little bit later, but that is setting it up in Canvas. Okay, so there we go. Now we're going to talk about how assignments get set up in Watermark for Site. So for Site, we have basically created those templates based on the information sent to us by the program, and then we set up the activities, and we've actually already deployed the activities to each section. So you don't have to worry about selecting the activity from that menu that you just saw. Those things are already going to be available to you once you log in to the system. So when you do log in, you're going to end up on that In Progress tab, which is where I had just landed. And then you can click on your sections to see the assigned activities. And you'll see that there's a drop down. So if you have more than one assignment for each of your courses, there's a little bit of a drop down menu there. Again, we have already assigned those activities to each section, so you don't have to worry about that part. Okay. So now we're going to get into talking more about the functions and the navigation of the system. The section is going to cover the many tabs and tools within student learning and licensure, and we'll go over how to create and edit rubrics if you so choose. There is the option for you to create your own. We have created the ones that you have sent to us, but if you have other assignments that you would like to use within Watermark, then you can create your own rubrics. Okay, so the first one is the Timeline tab, and this is a place for documenting events. When an activity is assessed, the assessment is automatically added to a student's timeline, and then students can also post other work like achievements and events, which will store and display them on the timeline. They'll be stored and displayed in chronological order, and it is private, so everybody's timeline is their own. However, timeline entries can also be included in e-portfolios for sharing with specific people or the public. So if you have an e-portfolio and everybody on campus and everybody in the site program has the option of creating their own e-portfolio that they can share with potential employers or if they're applying to a graduate program, they can take things from that timeline that they think would be great to put in that portfolio, and it's a very simple workflow to just add it into the e-portfolio. So let's go back to the In Progress tab. Okay, so here's the In Progress tab. So once you log into Watermark itself, you're going to see a listing of all of your courses. So if I were to click on Lobster Test course, you're going to see that I have a number of activities that have been assigned. So you'll notice we're in the Activities tab right now. Each one of these purple lines kind of indicates the parameters of the activities on the screen. Okay. You'll also notice that when you log in, anything that's been submitted is going to show as awaiting assessment. If people have not submitted yet, it's going to show as awaiting submission. And once you've graded it, it's going to show as done. So you'll see for my first activity here, I have 2 people who still haven't turned anything in. For the Activity 1 demo, you'll see that everybody's turned everything in, but I've only graded 1. And here we have somebody who has submitted and somebody who has not, but I haven't graded either of them. So that's just a way for you to take a look at all of the activities that you've assigned in your course. Each has a details button, and when you click on details, it's going to show you the progress of your students. So Elaine has not submitted yet. Neither has Rebecca. So that's where you'll find that in the details page. Okay, so let's go back to the slideshow. So the In Progress tab is going to list all of the instructor's active sections, and for each individual section, submitted activities that are already for assessment will be listed in the section information, as you just saw. The section details page. Clicking on an individual section will display the section details page, which you just saw, and that section details screen allows an instructor to view, create, and then manage activities. And the section details screen has 4 different tabs, which you saw before. There was Activities, Homepage, Students, and Scores, and we're going to discuss the Activities tab and the Homepage tab today. So I just want to show you where those tabs are. Activities, Homepage, Members, Scores, and Student Logs is if you are doing an internship and we have turned on placement management and internship functionality for your course. Okay, next. So the Activity tab, when the section details page is displayed, the Activities tab is selected by default. The Activities tab displays all activities in a section, as well as the details and assessment status of each activity, which you saw when I went into my sections. Additionally, a new activity can be created from the Activities tab. Activities are basically the fundamental component of each section or course. They can also be brought or they can be thought of as assignments and or tasks that are completed by the students, often followed by an assessment of their work. Activities contain a template, which we talked about earlier, which specifically defines the requirement for the activity and includes any of those rubrics that are used for assessment. So let's take a look at the Activities tab. That's where we are now, and that's what we saw earlier. So you'll see that here's Activity 1. So now if I were to click on the details, you will see that if I go up here, you're going to see that I can edit the activity. But here, oops, nobody submitted. Let me try a different one. Let's try this one. Okay, so you'll notice that Elaine has forced, it's not as violent as it sounds, but has had her submission forced, and Rebecca has not modified. So now that we have one awaiting assessment, we can actually click on Elaine, and this is where the information where you will be housed, and this is where you will also do the grading. You also, let's get out of there. Okay, so let's keep going. The next tab, there we go. So if you want to create your own activity, you do have the option to do so. To do that, you're going to click on the Create Activity button. So let's go back in. Oops, let me actually go through this slide first. You'll click that Create Activity button. You're going to set up the activity, and I will walk you through this in a moment. You'll put in a title in the title field, click on the template drop-down of the menu to choose which template you would like to be to assign to students. So you have the option of choosing a specific template. The chosen template can be previewed by clicking the View Template button next to the drop-down menu. Then you're going to click on the Student drop-down menu to choose Student. If you don't do that, it's not going to get assigned, so make sure under the Student drop-down tab you select Student from that list. Click on the visible field to choose a date and time that the activity will become viewable to students. Click on Open for Submission field to choose the earliest date and time that students will be able to submit to the activity. Click on the Due field in order to put your due date in. Click the Students can withdraw submission checkbox if students will be permitted to undo a submission. And this is helpful, like if their final draft isn't quite up to the par that you'd like it to be, you can actually have them withdraw that submission, and it bounces them back to not submitted. Once the assessment of a submission has begun, though, it is not there's no option of withdrawing that submission any longer. So then you're going to click this activity is required. If you don't, then it's not required and students may not do it. Then click the Enable Grade Return to LMS if you are on St. Rose Albany. Because you're using Canvas as a learning management system, there is the capability of passing the grades back between Watermark and Canvas. So make sure that if you want those grades to go into Canvas, you would click on Enable Grade Return to LMS. Then you're going to click Save as Draft button to save current settings and continue building the activity at a later date, or you can just click the Publish button and distribute the activity to students. So let's take a look at how to create an activity. So you're in your In Progress tab, you're in your Activities tab, you're going to go over here to the right to create activity, and then you're going to give this one a title. So I'm just going to go with Watermark Test Activity, and today is 7/12. I'm going to select the template that I want it to go to. So you'll notice there's a lot of different templates that have been deployed to my section. You're only going to see the templates that are deployed to your section. So let's go to Practice Template by Rebecca. And we're going to select Student from that dropdown. If you want students to be able to withdraw their submission, you can leave that clicked. And you want to make sure that this activity is required is clicked. If you are in campus in Albany, you're going to, if you want it to go into the gradebook, make sure you click on Enable Gradebook Return. So the setup is very similar to between the two programs. The only thing we want to make sure is that Site does not click this. We have all of our dates in here, the times, open for submission, and I'll just throw in a nice due date. We'll go with November 25th. And apparently it is set up in European time for some reason. And then click publish. And it's not going to let me do it actually. Let's try the 19th. Publish, and now you'll see that here is Watermark test activity 712. You'll note on my students, my 2 whole students, have not submitted. Okay, so let's go to the next slide. So now the activities detail page. This is a great way to just get an idea of who's submitted, who hasn't submitted. It also shows you the alignment. So when you're on the sections details page, clicking on the activity is going to show that activity details page like we saw before. The activity details page shows the details of the activity, its overall assessment status, and then allows an instructor to edit the activity. This page also displays a list of all students in the section, the assessment status of each student, and allows the instructor to manage the assessment status of all the students at one time. I personally like the fact that when you go in to do your assessment, you're able to see if there are any rubrics assigned to it or standards. They're going to be listed up here at the top. Okay, so let's go back in and we'll go over to that view details page. Again, we'll take a look and you'll see that we've got 2 students that haven't submitted. But I want Elaine to submit. Oh, well, that's interesting. Hello. So, bulk options, I want a forced submission, and I only want for Elaine to submit at this point. So I can make her do that, and then force submit. So now her submission is here. I can click on that. I see that submission. And the assessment panel is where you're going to see a rubric, for example, and you'll be able to mark that rubric when you're grading it. If you want to bump it back to them for revision, you have that option by requesting revision. Now, it was forced submitted, but now it needs to be resubmitted. So there's a way to bump that back. Okay, let's click done. And let's go on to the next place, which is the homepage tab. So, on the sections detail screen, when selecting the homepage tab, this allows an instructor to view the section homepage, and it's a homepage, like your Canvas has a homepage. It's a special type of template that's tied directly to a section, so each section has its own homepage. This is where you can provide information and resources about that section or that course to your students. This homepage can be included by an administrator when creating this section if you request that we do so, and it can also be created or edited by you if you choose to use them. We haven't really been playing around too much with the homepage tab, but hopefully a couple of people will want to start using that a little bit more, and we'll gain some more experience with that. So you'll see that this just looks like a regular homepage. It's got a welcome, so you might want to put welcome to the course. If you plan to use Watermark for more than just SLOAS and program assessments, and you want to use it for all your assessments so that you have really good data on student achievement in your course, you're welcome to do that here. This person has, put how-to resources in here. They've put in some videos they'd like students to watch. So anything that's going to persist throughout the semester that you maybe want students to go back to, you can put them here on this homepage. Okay. Now the rubrics tab. So as I mentioned before at the beginning of the webinar, the rubrics that were sent to us for program assessment and SLOAS have already been created and built and deployed to templates. That said, if you want to, like I just mentioned a second ago, if you want to start using Watermark for more of your assessments in your course, you have the opportunity to set up your own rubrics. Building a rubric, it takes place on that Create Rubric page. SLNL provides the instructor with complete control over the content of a rubric, which includes performance levels, elements, and associated standards, descriptions, and point values. So to create the rubric, you would go on the landing page. Let me see if I can get back over here. And we're going to go down here to the side. So we're leaving our In Progress tab and we're going down here to rubrics. And here are the 2 rubrics that I have for my course. So so you're going to click on the landing page and then create rubric. So you would go over here, create your rubric, and you would put your name of the rubric in here. If you want to add any standards, you can select standards that we have uploaded into the system. So suppose you want to just add your CAPE, you can go through and you can select which CAPE standards you want to have and save. Oops, we want to make sure that we're putting in assessment rubric 1 CAPE. Then you can go and sorry about that. You can go down here and then select the elements and your proficiency levels, as well as how many points each level is worth, and then a description of the element. So once it's published, though, some attributes of the rubric become locked and can't be changed. Locked attributes can include the number of performance levels, the number of elements, point values, associated standards and outcomes, previously aligned met and not met values. While associated rubrics and outcomes cannot be deleted, additional standards can be added at any time. Unassigned met not met values may be assigned after publishing. Okay, so the template tab. The template tab is found on an instructor's landing page, and it's used to create, edit, and view templates available to an instructor. Also in this list are templates that have been shared with an instructor by Student Learning and Licensure Administrator, which is basically Lita, Rebecca, and myself. A template is a customizable, interactive document that defines the requirements of a submission. It also includes any rubrics that will be used for assessment or grading. Every template has a specific type of workflow. We're going to go over those in a second. The workflow type defines how and by whom the templates will be submitted and assessed if needed. One of the things that I had mentioned at the beginning was that we created these templates based on what you had sent us. You also have the opportunity to create your own templates if you would like to use them over and over in your courses as you go semester to semester. So here are the different types of workflows. So the standard workflow, it's basically student hands it in, you assess it, and then it's done, it's graded. So that's what most of the assignments are that we have created. They're mostly a standard workflow. But there are other options if you feel like you want to use them. So there's the peer review option. This is where students will complete and submit a template. The template is then randomly assigned for assessment to another student per year or peer. After the peer assessment, the template is assessed by a supervisor. And as I'm saying template while I'm reading this, think activity, because students complete an activity that's based on this template workflow. So the assisted assessment workflow, students complete and submit a template activity. It's then assessed by a third-party person or coordinator. After that coordinator has run the assessment, the template is then assessed by a supervisor. The form submission workflow, students complete and submit a template form. The assessment step is skipped, and that data from the student submission is now available for reporting. So it goes right to the reporting end. The observational assessment workflow, the submission step is skipped, and the template assignment is assessed by a supervisor. So this could be if you wanted to have data in Watermark about a poetry performance or some kind of oral presentation, or it could even be a musical performance, anything that you would like. So then the internship workflow, this is going to be used obviously by courses where there's an internship component. So the interns or student teachers complete and then submit a template, and the template is assessed by a supervisor or a mentor. So it really stops there. It doesn't end up going to the instructor from there. The intern observation workflow, the submission step is skipped and the template is assessed by a supervisor or a mentor. So this is basically the same as the observational assessment. If it's something performance-based, students don't have to submit anything, but they can still be assessed within Watermark. And then there's the internship form workflow. So interns and student teachers complete and submit a template. The assessment step is skipped, and then the data from the student submission is available for reporting. And I want to go back and just correct something as well. So for the internship workflow, yes, so the student completes a template or an assignment, the template's assessed by a supervisor or mentor, and then the data does go to their course instructor. So I apologize for that. Okay, so now this is what you really came here for, and this is you want to make sure that you are assessing work. So I am going to make sure that you are able to hear everything, and you should be, but I just have to do a couple more settings, and I'm going to go here, and we're going to click and
as the SLL, they will land on the In Progress or Home page. Along the left side, you will see several icons. The activities submitted by students can be found on the In Progress page. Here, all the sections faculty, supervisors, or mentors are connected with will be listed. These can also be filtered by term, course type, or start date. Notifications for newly submitted activities to be assessed can be found under the course section, or will also be listed under the bell notification icon in the top right corner. Clicking on the notification listed beneath the section, here you will see a list of students within the section and their current status of the activity, awaiting submission, awaiting assessment, or done. For this particular example, this is an observation activity. Students are not responsible to submit any work, but are being observed and then assessed by faculty. Clicking on a student, if there is work that the student would have completed for assessment, it would be visible and available here. Again, this particular example is an observation activity and students have not submitted any work. Along the right side of the screen is an assessment panel. This is where faculty will find the rubric needed to be completed for assessment of the student. By hovering over the rubric, it is possible to see some information regarding the elements of the rubric. Also, by clicking View Rubric Details, the purple link found above, this opens the rubric within another window, allowing assessors to see all details within the rubric, as well as the option to leave line item or element-specific feedback. Simply click to select the desired level. When done assessing, simply click Submit and move the status of the activity to Done. A timestamp of who completed the assessment and when it was completed is visible to students. Thank you for watching this video tutorial about assessing student activities within Student Learning and Licensure. For more information, be sure to watch other tutorial videos regarding the faculty interface. For specific
Okay, so that tutorial is probably better than anything I can give you because I don't have any students who have submitted anything. So let's go to the next slide. Okay, so once a student has submitted, this is before grading happens obviously, the assessor or the instructor has a couple of different options. So on the activity details page, a student's listed in the awaiting submission column as you saw before. If they haven't submitted anything to the activity. The awaiting assessment column shows the students have submitted the work and it's awaiting your assessment, and the done column indicates that the assessment's complete. you can, as you saw me do before, you can move all student submissions forward in the assessment process without requiring students to submit by using the Force Submit button. The Force Submit option will move all submissions into the awaiting assessment column at one time. It's often used when when an assessment will take place, but there's no student submission, such as an oral presentation or performance. So to move all submissions to the awaiting assessment column, you can use Force Submit, and to do that you would go to, and you saw me do it before, you would go to the activities details page, click on the checkbox next to each student you would like to Force Submit, and then click the Force Submit button. And you'll have a pop-up window will come up, and you will again click Force Submit. It just wants to make sure you really want to do it. And then the other option available to instructors is the rollback submissions. The rollback option allows for an instructor to move all the students' submissions backward at the assessment process at one time. The options for rollback are based on the status of the submissions. So if submissions have been awaiting assessment status, rollback will move all the submissions back to awaiting submission column. And this is used to require all students to resubmit an activity. So everybody bombed it, you want everybody to do it again, you can roll everybody back and they can resubmit. If submissions have been assessed and so have done, and they have a done status, rollback will allow the instructor to move submissions back to either awaiting assessment or awaiting submission. It can be used to require all students to resubmit or to allow assessors to reassess submissions. So to move all those submissions backward in the assessment process, using rollback, you would click on the activity details page, click on the menu button or the three vertical dots. Some people call it an ellipse or a hot dog. And then click rollback. On the rollback pop-up window, choose to rollback status from the drop-down menu. So you can choose from that drop-down menu where you want it to go, and then just click rollback. So I don't know if I can really do it because I don't have any students, but let's take a look. So we'll go here. And we're going to go back here to in progress and go into a course. And it doesn't look like anybody's submitted anything here. Oh, here we go. So we've got one, it's awaiting assessment. Click view details. So now we're in here. So now I can, it's not going to let me, let's go to Elaine. Nope, it's not going to let me roll back on that one because I don't think it's anybody's far enough. Let's go back into my other course. That was unexpected. So it should show up right there, but because nobody's submitted, it's not going to. So let's just force everybody and see what we get. And now there's your rollback option. So once people have submitted something, you can roll them back. So now I'm on that roll back, and this is where I can roll them back to. Obviously, I've only forced them to go one step forward, and I haven't assessed it. So you would probably see awaiting submission or awaiting assessment here. And then you just click roll back, and now it's like they never submitted. Okay, so the assessments page. The assessment panel occupies the right side of the assessment page. The assessment panel contains several components useful in assessing a submission, including any rubrics to be scored, a feedback text box for responding to a student, and a scoring field. So to assess a student submission, you would go onto the activities detailed page where we just were, click on the student, which you saw me do, and the assessment page will display showing the submitted template or the activity that the student has submitted. If the student is still in the awaiting submission column, the assessment page will appear, but no assessment will be possible. To score a rubric, click on the desired description box for each element, and then to make general responses to the student, you can type responses into the feedback text box. Type a score into the scoring text field, and the scoring text field may be automatically completed based on the settings of the template. Now, if you are in the St. Rose Albany, then you are able to also, as I said before, that can pass back directly to the Canvas gradebook. So I don't believe we have any thing aligned to a specific. Let's see if this one here. Go to details. Let's go in and we'll assess this one. Yeah, so we don't have a rubric over here, but basically you'll open up the activity for that student submission. You're going to see everything that they've submitted here. And then over here, you're going to see a rubric, just like what you saw in the video, which is, basically check marks. And you would go through and you just select their grades for each one. And I can go back to the slide to show you what that looks like in here on the right-hand side. Okay. And then this part that I'm going to talk about next is the reporting options. If I can go, there we go. So there are a couple of different options for assessments. So when student submissions to an activity are assessed by scoring rubrics, the scores are made part of an activity assessment report. Instructors can view the report by clicking the assessment results button located on the activity's details page. So if we went back to, activity details page. Okay, so your activity details page, and we're going to, to review that report, you would go here, and again, I'm not right here. No, there aren't any assessment results, so yeah, so that's where you'd find it. The assessment results report contain two different views. The per student view, which shows the rubric scoring for each student individually, and the aggregated result view, which shows the total number of times a rubric element was scored at a specific performance level, as well as statistical calculations. That, I believe, is probably what you're going to need for your program assessment and SLOAs, is the aggregated. Both views provide drill-down capabilities, which can provide insights to inform your instruction, and both views can be exported as a CSV file or a PDF file. So let's see if I'm not quite sure we have any, but let's go to the reports option here. So we're leaving here and we're going to reports. There we go. Yeah, so I haven't created any reports yet, so I'm going to create a new report, and I want to do, let's go with a comparative data report. So this will be, my 7/12/23 report, or 7/1/12 without my glasses on. I can then set my filters. So I want to go through and export a report by activity, by course. Let's go by course instead. I want to make sure I have the standards information, or you can select, any of these demographics if you need them, or academic majors. So right now, let's just go for activity. And I want to get a report for August, chalk and wire, CSE 104. I want to get an activity report for demo. Let's actually get rid of that one just in case there's data in there. And click apply. Oops. Now we're going to go down and select that rubric. So let's see. This is where you would find the rubric that is associated or that you want to compare to. It's not showing up right now. To those filters, that's why. And then report output. So you can go through and you can select your measures. And if you want to have a row with the total aggregates, you can do that here. And then you just click Run Report. It's not going to let me do it, but you run Report, and you'll get basically what you see on this screen. They're really clean to look at. And the good news is you won't need to go to OLS in the near future to run these reports. So there are a couple different levels of permissions when it comes to reports. So every instructor for every course they have can run their own reports per course and per student that they have in their courses. As far as department or program level goes, that is reserved for administrators. And what we do here is we are the whole administrator. So we can run reports, but the reason why we picked this was because we know it's an inconvenience to have to come to us. So now we're going to be down the road, as soon as we get some more training, and obviously we'll be assigning that to department chairs. So department chairs will then be able to go in as admins of their specific department and run the reports for that department only, without having to come to us, which is great. We will be providing more training on that, as well as some training videos. And I guess with that, we are finished. If you would like, this isn't a live workshop, but if you would like to evaluate this specific webinar presentation, you are more than welcome to do so. There's a QR code there if you'd like to use that, or if you look at any one of our signatures in our email addresses, there's a link to evaluate all of all of our presentations and workshops. So if you have any further questions about using Watermark, or have an interesting use case that you'd like to try and use this a little bit more for than just for your program assessments or SLOAs, we are happy to help you with that. We'd like to encourage that more people use this, just so you have some really good data. And while you're collecting that data throughout the semester, it can inform your instruction, which is just, it's best practice. So again, thank you for joining me today, and enjoy Watermark.